It's Chiron's Tech News time again, and thank you for stopping in. Our first story is about GameStop, the retail game company and darling stock for Reddit's WallStreetBets members, is pulling the ripcord on CEO George Sherman in this PC Gamer piece. They are ditching him for failing to meet performance targets. On his watch, 462 stores were ditched in 2020 alone as the stock continued its slide. But he's got a golden parachute worth about $175 million. I love golden parachutes, Austin Powers. If that seems high, part of the reason is that the stock has gone up since his failures. And as such, it would have been worth about $11 million at its current share price when he became CEO. Okay, that's a pretty sweet severance deal. I mean, how many people get to a job where if they fail, they're like set for life? Most people aren't set for a couple of weeks. However, here's the thing. I don't have a problem, in theory, with golden parachutes, to an extent. You can't just update the old resume and get any old job once you've been fired as CEO. There are even anti-compete clauses in certain contracts, meaning you probably can't even get a CEO gig or any gig directly in your field or industry anymore. So it's not so simple. However, a few million, okay, maybe, but like 175 million, that's bonkers. That's totally bonkers. But good news, I'm inspired. So I'm making myself CEO of Chiron Pictures and granting myself $100 billion in shares as a golden parachute. Oh yeah. Although the company only has about this much in assets. $60,000 in prop money. Worth about $10 used for best offer. And now we have from Eurogamer a story about PlayStation as it cries uncle after gamers criticize them for killing off the old PS3 and Vita game stores. What this means is that if they did this, people had no way of getting old games that were only available for download from the store. So in this case, people were able to convince them to do the right thing. However, this is related to our next story. Apple is being sued because they killed an iTunes account, which basically burned $25,000 worth of apps and videos. Apple is saying that renting is one thing and buying is another thing. However, what buying means to Apple is that you've bought it as long as they decide to continue to let you have your account. And if they cancel your account, your collection is gone, and so is all the value of the money you spent. This is turning into a class action lawsuit for Apple, and I hope a new consumer protecting precedent is made because of it. At the end of the day, buying media you're going to watch or listen to many times is cheaper than renting it. All of this according to ARS Technica, but it gets better. You see, even people with low income go to the movies, and over time this has been shown to be true during past recessions. Movies offer a path to being whisked away somewhere else for a little while. So the reason this is important is because more and more content is being controlled by companies through software. That means your smartphone, tablet, or computer is not a tool that you control. It's a tool that you pay for, which can be used to subjugate and control you. This matters to everyone. This is like a bookstore deciding to close your account so they can come to your house and burn all your books. It's not okay. This isn't the only reason why technology and software issues matter, as we'll see in the next few stories. The Verge reports that the craptastic software system called Horizon, used by the UK Post Office, had bugs that made it look like employees stole tens of thousands of British pounds. Some of these people were convicted of crimes and even went to prison because people were insistent that the software be trusted. This has already ruined lives. In one case, a mom went to jail for 9 months. It's horrible. And then there's this. Reuters reports that a bunch of US banks have started using cameras and artificial intelligence to monitor customers, workers, and even people sleeping near ATMs. There's much going on here. I don't even have the time to get into the details. However, the banks know there's potential for backlash, but they're doing it anyway. And let's not forget about this. The Intercept revealed in documents obtained that U.S. Marshals used drones to spy on Black Lives Matter protests in Washington, D.C. This is military technology being used to police protesting citizens in a free and democratic country. According to the New York Times, government aircraft monitored 15 cities during the protests, filming demonstrators in New York, Philadelphia, Dayton, Ohio, and Minneapolis, where a Predator drone was deployed over the city. Oh, and let us not ignore this. Twitter has gone along with an emergency order from the Indian government to take down over 50 tweets, some of which were critical of New Delhi's handling of the coronavirus. What all these stories have in common is that technology, hardware, software, and networking is being used not for the betterment of people, but instead to continue to allow power to accumulate and congeal into the hands of a very few. And we're paying for it. Not only are we paying for it with regards to privacy, access to resources, and social justice, but we are literally paying for it with our hard-earned cash when we buy technology. These companies are taking money from customers and investors and using it to become more powerful. And every other powerful person or organization is now unapologetically pulling up to the table and going all in. Technology was supposed to level the playing field, democratize things that weren't even accessible or possible a few decades ago, and bring new freedoms and opportunities to people. It was supposed to make the lives of everyone better, yours and mine. This isn't a conspiracy theory because it doesn't even need to be. All of this is just happening right now and in plain sight. People who are focused on technology tend to focus on the fun parts, how the latest innovations are pushing the boundaries on what's possible and how it can change the world. It's fun, and that's great. And people who are focused on making the world a better place tend to focus on traditional social justice issues, which is absolutely critical. And both these things are needed and even essential parts of our world. But in between these two things, something important is happening, and we all need to keep an eye on it so we know how our choices and our cash is contributing to these technology companies which have come to control so much in the world. And now it's time for retro tech news. Part of my interest in vintage computing and repairing retro systems is because in some small way, it takes back just a little bit of power with technology. It also shows the people around me that buying the latest and greatest tech isn't the only way to go. It's part of a system of values that flow from the belief that we should have good things that last a long time instead of cheap throwaway disposable things that offer maybe some shiny new finishes and tiny gains in specs. And so with that in mind, our final story tonight is about a project called 68k.news. The Register is reporting about Malseed and their project to rework Google News so that it can run on older and in some cases much, much older vintage computers. Basically, some Python code takes the RSS feed from Google News and massages it so that older browsers can view it on the website 68k.news without all the JavaScript, trackers, ads, SSL, and other tech that's too new for these vintage systems. There's also CNN Lite, which delivers news in the most basic text form, which I've actually used in the past and works actually very well, even on the command line or even on a modern browser. It's great. It's just news and text. So I like these services. They work quite well. In the future, I'm planning on doing an episode on fun and internet-y things you can do with vintage systems. So subscribe if you'd like to check that out when it's released. And as always, take care of yourself, and thank you for watching.